Hi guys, let's knit leg warmers. Are you in? So leave me a message down below if you're in. I know you've always wanted to make leg warmers. The type of yarn that I'm going to be using is Rosetto Worsted, some yarn that I had left over in my stash. It is a size 4 and it is 30% wool, 70% acrylic, and it came from Ice Yarns. So, and I do like this yarn. It's pretty nice. So the color number, in case you were looking for this on the website, I will go ahead and link it below in the notes below the video, but it's 63453. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I am using a size 7 knitting needle, 16-inch circular, size 4.5 millimeter. You can use double pointed needles. You could use straights even and then just seam them up. You could do whatever you'd like. So this is just how I'm going to do it. I'm going to cast on 64 stitches. I'm going to use the long tail cast on method. So I'm going to go ahead and make a loop, put it on the needle, and we'll tighten it up and just keep it kind of loose. So I'd like to keep it kind of loose like that so you can still see in there. It's not super tight. And then we'll take one strand of the yarn, the one that's attached to the ball. We'll put that under our pointer finger. This is just how I do it. And then the other strand, which is the tail, this is the tail of the yarn, and I'll put that around my thumb. And then I'm holding it like this. And we'll go ahead and do the long tail cast on. We're going to do 64 stitches. This is how it's done. And I want to keep them kind of loose. You could use any method of casting on that you'd like. And I'll go ahead and catch up with you when we get to the 64 stitches on the needle. Okay, so we have 64 stitches on the needle, and we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to knit in the round. So I'm going to make sure that I have all of my stitches kind of pointed down like this. See how the loops are on the top and then the stitches are on the bottom, and that I don't have a twist in them anywhere. Okay, and that looks good to me. And we're going to go ahead and start off by making a 2x2 rib, which is knit 2, purl 2, and we'll go ahead and start with a knit. I'm going to go ahead and put my little marker on. Oops. And I'm going to knit 2. And I'm using both strands just in the beginning so that I can kind of weave in the end, you know, the front strand and the tail strand at the same time. And then later on I'll just drop the tail part. So I'm going to go ahead and move the yarn to the front, and then I'm going to purl 2 on the next 2. And then move the yarn to the back and knit 2. And then I'm going to go ahead and drop that extra strand. So this is my tail. I'm just going to put that through here. And I'm actually going to trim that off and make it a little bit shorter so we don't have such a long tail. And then this will be my working yarn, the one that's attached to the ball of yarn. Okay, so we're just going to continue around knitting 2, purling 2. So I'm going to bring, I just finished with a knit 2, and I know that because looking at it, those are 2 knit stitches and these are 2 purl stitches. They have the purl bumps in the front. So I'm going to go ahead and bring the yarn to the front, and I'm going to do 2 purls. Okay, and then knitting 2 and purling 2. And I'm just going to do that all the way around, and I will catch up with you when I get to the end of this round. Okay, so we've come around to where the marker is. I'm just going to slip the marker, and that just signifies the beginning. So I ended with 2 purls, and I know that because I see the 2 purl bumps. And then I'm going to, when I come around, these will have 2 pieces of yarn on each one of these stitches, just because I held that tail together in the beginning. So I'm going to go ahead and just use that as 1 stitch, and I'm going to knit the first 2 just as I began, and I'm going to knit the knits and purl the purls, and then I brought the yarn to the front, and then purl. And it's a little bit tight, like right at the beginning when you first start out this ribbing portion of it, and then bring the yarn to the back, and then knit. Okay, and that was actually just the first 4 or 6 actually that I held the yarn double. So now the yarn is single again, and I'm just going to keep going around, knitting the knits and purling the purls. So knit 2, purl 2. And I will go around until, I'll just keep going until it measures. Get a little tape measure. And you can make your cuff longer than this if you like, but this is just what I chose to do. So I made mine 2.5 inches, my cuff. So from this portion right here up to here is about 2.5 inches. And that is what it will look like. So I'll catch up with you when I get down to here, and then we'll do the next part. Hi, so I'm back again, and I have knit my ribbing. I've knit 2.5 inches approximately, and I'm going to go ahead, I've made it back around to my marker, and I'm just using this little peep, and I'm going to go back to doing the knit stitch all the way around so that I can do the rest of the leg warmer. And I'm just knitting every stitch going forward. So basically what I want it to look like is I have done all this ribbing right here, and I'm working on the knit part. And I'm just going to knit around and around and around until I get to the top of the leg warmer. And then I will do ribbing again. So I will meet back up with you when I get to the top of the leg warmer. And there's what it looks like. Okay, so now I'm at the top of the leg warmer. Excuse the background noise if you can hear that. I'm not sure. There's like a party going on outside in the street or something. But I will go ahead, and I've knit my ribbing, and then I went ahead and knit as long as I'd like to make the leg warmer. And so for this particular one that I'm making right now, I have knit 12 inches of the knit stitch after the ribbing. So, and that was just knitting round and round. So now I'm back up at the top, and I'm going to be doing the ribbing again. So I'm going to knit 2, and then put the yarn to the front, move to the yarn to the front, and then purl 2. I'm just going to do the 2x2 ribbing like I did on the bottom on the top. And then I'm going to knit 2, bring the yarn to the front, and purl 2, and then bring the yarn to the back and knit 2, and then do that all the way around until I finish my leg warmer. And so at this point, you can make these leg warmers as long as you'd like. If you'd like them to be longer or shorter, if you just want to make a boot topper, you can. You don't have to make as many inches, but as long as you would like for that would fit on your leg. So I will get back with you when I get to the top, and I'll show you the bind off. Okay, so I'm back with the top ribbing done on my leg warmer, and it looks like that. And what I did was, at this point, I just laid down the second leg warmer next to the first leg warmer and just made sure they were the same length. So they look like they're the same. I'm not sure if you can see that. They're the same length, so I'm going to go ahead and bind off the second one. And it's not that critical, but I basically go for the same length as opposed to like counting rows and things. Because I'm a little willy-nilly with that sort of thing. Okay, so now I am back at where my marker is, and I'm going to go ahead and bind off. So now you could do like a surprisingly stretchy bind off if you'd like. Like if you have like large, like you maybe are making a pair of leg warmers and you want it to go up really high on your thigh or something like that, then you might want to use a surprisingly stretchy bind off. But I found that just the regular bind off, just doing it really loosely, or you can even use a larger size needle just for the bind off. You could do that too, just to make it really loose. But I just kind of mentally tell myself, okay, make it loose, you know, while I'm doing it, and that seems to work. So like, you know, just don't tighten up each stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and knit 2, and I'm just doing it really loose, and then I'm going to be binding off in the ribbing. So, and then I'm going to pass the first one over the second one. And then I'm going to bring the yarn around, and I'm going to purl, but just remember loosely. And then I'm going to bring the first stitch over the second stitch. And we're just doing everything as loose as you can. And then, and I moved the yarn in the back just so I could get it out of the way for when I was doing something. But so then we're doing another purl. And keeping it loose, and then put the first stitch over that second stitch. And now the yarn's in the back, and we're doing a knit stitch. So when we're working on the knit stitch, we're going to be binding off in knit stitch, and when we're working on the purl stitch, we bind off in purl stitch. Now if for some reason that was too much, you could just bind off all in knit if you wanted or whatever, but I usually do this just so that it is stretchier. So I bind off in the stitch I was working. Okay, and then I'm going to pass this one over this one. And then I'm going to knit, because that is a knit stitch. I see there's the knit row. So I'll do the knit stitch, and then pass over the first stitch over the second stitch, just keeping it loose. Bring the yarn to the front, I'm doing the purl. And then pull the first yarn over the second, the loop. And we have another purl. Okay, so we'll just continue on binding off in stitch, and then I'll meet back up with you when I get to the end. Okay, so now we are back at the end. We have 2 stitches left. We have the one that I just worked, and then I have one more stitch. It is a purl. I'm going to bring the yarn to the front. I'm going to purl it. I am now having the 2 stitches on there bring the first one over the second loop. I have one remaining loop. Then I am going to reach over here. Get some scissors. Look at that. There's another yellow peep. Isn't that cute? Okay, I'm going to get some scissors. I am going to leave it a little bit long so that I can weave in the ends and snip it. And then I'm going to make the loop larger. Take the needle out. And I will use a tapestry needle to bring through this loop like that, and then I will weave it in. Just go through the one in front of it, and I like to go ahead and go through there, and I just weave it in the back. I like to go over to one of these ridges of knit stitches and kind of weave in back and forth down the raised knit stitch. And then go back up in the next loop on the knit stitch, just so it's pretty secure. Okay, that looks good. Now I will get my scissors. I will snip it. Okay, and it looks like that, and okay, so there is our second leg warmer. Okay, and so we have our pair of leg warmers. Yay, they're done. And I love them. Look at them. They're so pretty. I love how the colors go from purple to pink. And you don't have to be super particular about, you know, that they're the exact same length or that you knit the ribbing a certain length. You can knit the ribbing longer or shorter. If you did it longer, I believe it would help hold the top of your leg warmer up, as opposed to if you had a shorter bit of ribbing, it will be a little bit looser and it won't hold up as well on the top of your leg. But these I did about the same length of ribbing on both sides. I did 12 inches of knit in the middle. You could do more or less. You could do more if you wanted to make like a thigh high or over the knee kind of leg warmer. What I did was I used this Rosetto Worsted again, and I used, and it's the 30% wool, 70% acrylic, 100 grams, 200 meters, and it says it's a 4 weight. And just to recap, I used 1 full skein and this much of a second skein, so I didn't even use 2 full skeins. So Now you could also like put pom-poms, like have a pom-pom hanging off of them. I've seen some really cute things. I hope you try it. I love them. Thanks. Bye.